Master your money, free your future. Welcome to Budget for Life. My name is Jeremy. I'm not a professional YouTuber. I'm a financial advisor, but this video is not financial advice. In this video, we are going to look at some pretty interesting breadcrumbs from Target's earnings as it relates to whether or not it's more or less likely that Target could be GameStop's top acquisition target. We're going to get into it. Let me share my screen. What's up, Coffee House? Test. Great to see you guys. By the way, thank you for the subscribers. Thank you to those who join the channel as fans and friends. So Target. Okay. Let me just dive into what I think is pretty interesting as it relates to could they be a target? Is Target the target? Yeah, Best Buy did have their earnings as well, but I'm not breaking down Best Buy in this video. So interesting breadcrumb number one, okay? So we know multiple times Ryan Cohen has gone after, in a publicly critical way, executives who spend their time on PowerPoint. Cohen is very clear that he is not a pro PowerPoint guy. He doesn't think that he doesn't want GameStop employees, executives to be on PowerPoint. He thinks it's a distraction from the work. And look at Target's earnings call, okay? 51 slides of a PowerPoint, followed up by another 55 slides of a PowerPoint, followed up by another 37 slides, and then another 5 or 10 to close it off after that. I listened to this live yesterday morning, and man, this thing drug on forever. And I'm like, okay, on the jump. Now it's interesting, right? Because GameStop, Cohen, he's looking for a sleepy management team. So you're reading between the lines when you're thinking about an earnings call and like, okay, is this a sleepy management team or not? Because like they don't sound sleepy, right? They sound so energetic. Even the language, like, we've already started this new chapter, fueling growth, right? And this guy is the brand new CEO, right? They just hired a new CEO. So how could they be interested in selling if they just brought in a new CEO? Well, they didn't just bring in a new CEO. They hired the guy that was the COO for the past 20 years, which is, by the way, exactly what GameStop did back in 2018, 2019, when they were buying time before they brought in an outside CEO to ultimately tank the company before Ryan Cohen stopped the bad plan. GameStop also did this many moons ago I'd have to, like, where are we? Like back in 2007, 2008. You're not going to follow along with this, so whatever. They also did it back then, hired the COO to be the standing CEO, but it was actually just for a time before they brought in a new face to be the leader of the company. So on the surface, just because they have a new CEO, he's not really new. And so that in itself is not a red flag as far as, is Target GameStop's target? Justin Wright in the chat saying, as the name of the title implies, we aren't thinking eBay any longer. Justin, I have never thought it was eBay. So a lot of people think it's eBay. I don't think it's eBay. So I don't know who we is necessarily, but I've talked about it several times why I don't think it meets GameStop's criteria, but I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't know. Cohen hasn't told me. I keep DMing him. Just kidding. What's up, Mix? What's up, Proselytize? Clark Kent, channel member. I like the stock. Great to see you. Great to see you. Someone apparently is accusing me of stealing their research on Target. I have not stolen anyone's research. I haven't even looked, much less stolen anyone else's research on Target. Let's start. So PowerPoints, right? Tons of slides, which already is like, okay, that's a unique level of meeting the criteria. COO standing in as CEO. Interesting, as it meets the criteria. Look at in Kara's, the CEO presentation, he's talking about the new chapter, right? All this new stuff that we're going to do to save the company, right? But Kara comes in and is like, let me talk about what, what that really means, what it's really going to look like. Look at the big new things that the big new old leadership is going to do. Tell me, guys, if this sounds like a new strategy or not. Does this sound like Target's doing something new? Brick and Mortar, great to see you. Glad you're here. We're going to try to make better decisions with what we put on the shelf. We're going to try to really differentiate ourselves. And we're going to try to make our stores better. This is code for we're going to keep doing everything that we've been doing, and we're going to try to do it better, right? And they get into all of it, right? Stylish home products at accessible prices. Okay, this is literally not new, right? All stuff. So we're gonna build some new shelves in the beauty portion. We're gonna have some new shelves in the beauty portion. Like we're gonna keep doing our food just like we've been doing, right? We're gonna keep selling wellness products. We're gonna keep selling baby products, right? But we're gonna elevate the guest experience by being easy to shop, inspiring, and friendly. Okay, we are going to keep doing exactly what we're doing, right? Oh, but we're going to have Target Circle members like we already have, right? That's the whole thing. So another clue, all the new stuff they're talking about is actually just continuing to do what they already do. So again, another clue for totally in play as an acquisition target. Look at Michael, though, and tell me what stands out to you. Okay, we've already started this new chapter, fueling growth. We have clarity about who we are, clarity about the experience we create. We got input from our stakeholders, and here it is. Ready? We've crystallized the lane that we're uniquely suited to own and win. So he just keeps building up. What is the big thing that they're going to do to help all families discover the joy of everyday life? And I will say, I'm going to talk more on this in a second, but I want you, why am I highlighting this? Why am I emphasizing this? Think about it for a sec. We'll get to the next slide or two, and maybe it'll start to ring some bells. I did want to say, though, that the Target stock, really liked this earnings report and this presentation, right? Earnings came out at pre-market, right? 5 a.m. So it got a nice few dollars per share bump then. The earnings call started at 10:30, and it got another few dollars per share, right? So people really investors liked what Target had to say, which I want to highlight. Also, it is 7 minutes till close. Not that matters too much on a Wednesday, but it's been kind of fun watching the stock close above max pain for several Fridays in a row, and shares available to borrow going down and down and down into the six-figure range. Not even 1 million shares left to borrow, and the borrow fee continuing to go up and up and up, particularly on the warrants. Pretty exciting to see the pressure building. Okay, has anyone thought anything about this yet? Let me go to the next slide. To be the most delightful experience in retail. This is Target's vision. The most delightful experience in retail, helping families discover the joy of everyday life. Does that sound like anything related to anything you've ever heard Cohen say? Right? Delighting the customer. This is it. This is the big new vision that Target's communicating, that investors are excited to hear. And here's what we're going to do, guys. Delight the customer. We are going to be a delight store. We're going to bring delight to moms, delight to the family, to dads and kids, right? 3 slides in a row. Delightful experience in retail, joy for families. Delight is the standard. So again, does that sound like a company that Ryan Cohen might be talking to under the table? Does this sound like a leadership that might be positioning itself to sell to GameStop as the acquirer? It's certainly possible, right? Busy families is the target for them, which is how I've called it mom and kid home. But number one, family is probably the easier way to summarize what is Target's target market. Let me, before I hit up the chat, let me share a couple more thoughts here. So again, the priorities. How are we going to accomplish this? We're going to keep growing our own wholesale brands. We're going to try to make the guest experience better. We're going to try to make our tech, our mobile order, whatever, better. And we're going to try to make our employees better. Okay, so we're just going to keep doing everything we're doing. We're going to try to make it better. Right? So nothing's new. Fun 101. They're going to try to do some more branded fan stuff, more toys, more Pokemon cards. But nothing is like changing with how they are operating. But the communication is so flowery, right? All this amazing stuff we're going to do. But then when it comes to the numbers, right? Because if you read the summary, it's like, oh man, Target's like, it's going up, whatever, like it's turned around, it's winning back customers, it's the stock is up. Since I first started talking about it, the stock's up over 6%, almost 20% since I started talking about it. But here's where the rubber meets the road. let's look at the financials, right? Everything's so good. We're all excited. Everyone's pumped up. Net sales down. EPS down. GAAP EPS down. So again, we can talk all we want about, look at these amazing PowerPoint slides. I love the Target logo. It's so beautiful to see the red and the white circles, right? You know what I mean? Like, wow, delight the customer. Oh, you mean sales year over year, top line down. The cost of those sales also down. SG&A, though, going up. Operating income down. Net income down. EPS down. So again, when you zoom out, this is still a sleepy management team. This is not a new vision. This is not. So earnings, like they were, it wasn't as bad as people feared. So we're seeing a little bit of stock rally. But is there anything that was communicated that was so amazing, so awesome, so wow, so new? No, except for perhaps the clarity that customer delight is going to be the focus, which again aligns so well with what Cohen has prioritized in Chewy and what he's prioritized at GameStop. Super exciting. So a couple people are saying, hey, what about this is unprecedented? Right? Because Cohen said, ultimately, this transformation, this acquisition for GameStop is going to be transformation for GameStop, but ultimately within the capital markets. So how does Target ultimately transform GameStop and capital markets? Well, the thing is, guys, how does anything do that? Like if there's a publicly traded company that's already a known entity that's consumer facing, how does GameStop buying it transform capital markets? You know what I mean? I think no matter what Cohen buys, the transformation that he wants to see in capital markets is one, a exposing of naked short selling and a restructuring of the amount of power that institutions have within equities. Like I think he wants to end seller boxing, for example, through creating long-term value and potentially some more squeezes within GameStop's stock. But ultimately, it wouldn't stop with just GameStop. It would change capital markets, right? If they squeeze, that is part of the impetus for the restructuring in Wall Street that I think Cohen wants to have, right? No more seller boxing. No more private equity tanking, artificially bankrupting companies, right? That would be transformational. No more free, risk-free compensation for executives, right? I think he wants executives to have to pay for some of their shares. You know what I mean? So that would be transformational. That's not the way our markets work right now. Naked short selling, predatory short selling is how our markets work right now. So I think that's what he wants to see is executives that are aligned with shareholders and institutions that are aligned with shareholders. That's the transformations that he wants to see. If there was a third transformation that he wants to see, I think it is related to GameStop being a holding company for brick and mortar stores. there is not, to my knowledge, that's never scaled. Like there are holding companies of consumer products. Berkshire is an example of a holding company that has lots of different, totally unrelated businesses. But I don't know if there's really a holding company that essentially represents consumer retail, brick and mortar retail. Unrelated brands, right? It's not like here's our whatever, here's Old Navy and here's Gap, but unrelated brands, completely differentiated in the type of customer that they're trying to reach, but uniquely American consumer companies with storefronts. Like that's never been done before either. So those are the three transformations I think Cohen's interested in. And I think ultimately the first two are the most important, and he could do that with any company, hypothetically. Any company, any acquisition, hypothetically could be the trigger for a GameStop squeeze, which hypothetically could be the transformation for GameStop, but ultimately, if it squeezes high enough, the transformation for capital markets. I don't think Cohen saying this is like a signal that he's necessarily trying to buy a financial related firm or something like that, but he could. Again, I could totally be wrong. And yeah, the ultimate transformation, like into a Berkshire Hathaway type company, is totally like that's part of the vision for sure. Totally. So I don't think that's mutually exclusive with what I just communicated personally. Chris Clifton said, I also think we should look at companies that would cause the most pain for naked short sellers. Yeah, totally. I mean, that's part of why I think retail is where he's aiming. You know what I mean? Like short percentage is one thing, NOLs are one thing, but generally speaking, like big money is categorically short brick and mortar retail. So I think anything that people think is dying, there's a lot of opportunity for pain, particularly compared to like an eBay, for example. It's like no one thinks eBay's going anywhere. Like it doesn't create pain for short sellers. I agree. Like what creates the most pain for short sellers is something on Cohen's mind. I think part of why he bristles at the term meme stock, because I think he's about to do it again. I think he's about to make GME a meme again. But obviously it's not really him doing it. It's really the fact that shorts haven't closed and he's successfully turning around the company. But that still leaves you with obviously a large window of what it could be. Chris Clifton has himself some AMC shares. The only thing with that is like I just don't know if AMC will sell. Like I think the leadership is so on the other side, like so corrupt, so incentivized to bankrupt the company, that I don't think Cohen could pay enough to outpay what institutions have paid Adam Aaron and the like to tank it. So I wouldn't have a ton of hope. I don't hold any AMC shares personally. Funko is super small. Kenny's intern. It's a funny YouTube handle. So it doesn't move the needle for GameStop to own Funko, in my opinion. Chris, I'm not that different from you. For me, I'm hoping that it involves DK Butterfly, aka BBBYQ. And so I've got my own DGen bet of bankrupted shares that I'm hoping still somehow, someday, some way pays off for me in a great way. But, do I have a ton of evidence for why that will or won't happen at this point? I do not at this point, but I still think that there's a chance. I give it like a 20% chance. And that's part of why these are my top 3 names as well, because these NOLs can be applied within these businesses. But I could totally just be hopiuming my way to, to nowhere. What else? I missed it. Justin said, walk us through what this would look like. We only have 1/2 of the money needed to fully purchase Target. Yeah, so Justin, it would not be a cash purchase. If you're buying a company from a private owner, they want cash. If you're buying a company that's a publicly traded company, the shareholders want shares. They don't want cash. Shareholders don't want to be told, hey, here's 10% premium on your shares. The cash will settle in your brokerage account next week. Thanks. The shareholders want all of the upside to the new holding company. So hypothetically, it's a 4-to-1 dilution for GME. But ultimately, you end up with perhaps 20% of the new ticker, the new company, even though you only are contributing 3% of revenue, 7% of income. But yeah, it would mostly be shares. There'd be some cash, but the cash is mainly going to be used in the business. Like Target needs cash. So again, if you're Target, you don't want to sell your business for cash. The shareholders won't want that because they don't get upside. But then the new company still needs cash because GameStop spent all its cash to buy Target. You know what I mean? So it'd be better for the new company to have the, $9.4 billion in cash to use on the company, and for the purchase to happen through shares and or potentially some new convertibles, right? I'm sure some cash will be spent, but also like the convertibles that GameStop currently holds will certainly convert to dilution in time, particularly if this acquisition is Target. Like it will launch the new company above the thresholds for those convertibles. And so GameStop probably would issue some new convertibles, which would help fund some of it potentially. But yeah, I mean, I'm very interested to find out. You know what I mean? Argent Purr said, how about a private company? Gmerica buys them both, then goes public. You wouldn't take a public company private and then re-go public. But I think the idea of what you're saying is, what if it's a new ticker, which I think is very, very possible. like a forced closure of shorts upon the transaction of the new entity, I think is super possible. And yes, some if Target is the target, then some GameStop stores would merge into those targets. So there would be even this 3.6% of revenue that GameStop's contributing, like even some of that would be cannibalized because it'd be better for them to just sell inside of Targets instead of inside of GameStop's. So the GameStop side becomes even more profitable because that's even more stores you can close, etc. But I don't think there's any debating like which store is a more pleasant consumer experience, Target or GameStop. It's not really that close. So hypothetically, could GameStop with its brand leverage the locations and premium experience that is Target to be an even more effective and more profitable seller of video games? Totally. And Target's employees are pretty highly paid relative to retail. So could you teach them how to do the resale business? I think you probably could. You know what I mean? But if that's too complicated, GameStop could just say, hey, if you want to sell, you need to go to a GameStop. And that's where we do our buy, sell, trade, you know? But if you're just looking to buy some consoles and games, then hey, we've closed this store, we've moved inside Target. As far as the graded cards, all that happens online anyways. So I don't know. I hope we find out like not too long from now, because I'm starting to really wish that we knew. But we're just 2 weeks from earnings, which is pretty exciting. Surely we'll learn something. Yeah, I mean, it would be pretty explosive for shares if forced closure and new ticker are on the other side of the acquisition, which I think they would be, even just based on Cohen's comments. Like, not wanting to be called a meme and then saying it's going to be transformational. Another way to say this, transformational not just for GameStop, but ultimately within capital markets. Another way to say that is it's going to be transformational for GameStop and then for capital markets. Like ultimately, this will transform capital markets as a whole. But basically, immediately, this is going to be transformational for GameStop. Obviously, any acquisition would be transformational for GameStop because it does change the nature of the business, turns them into a holding company, etc. So it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but if it's ultimately going to transform capital markets as well, to me, that feels like, I don't know, just a signal that the squeeze is still on the table. Maybe not the squeeze, but at least a squeeze. EGJIMI, Egg Jimmy says, isn't there a 30 to 40 day notice you have to give before disclosing info on shareholder vote? So we should hear something maybe Monday, March 9th. I don't know why it has to be March 9th, but they haven't given the date yet for the vote for Cohen's compensation. But they said it's going to be sometime in March or April. So, you know, but they could also be like, oh, turns out it's May. You know, like they haven't committed to anything yet. But yeah, whatever that we like, we'll have the date at some point, you know, in advance of when the actual date is. I really wonder when. I think it's very likely at this point that vote happens after earnings, which also makes me think that earnings might be like a little bit hush hush. But at the same time, I don't think they want the stock to go down very much. You know, like you got to get that vote in and approved. So, anyways, just very, I think June is going to be so much more exciting than March, but I'm feeling quite antsy and I'm like, man, I just really want March. Let's just start in March. You know, I mean, it's been solid year to date. Like it's a nice little recovery, but I really am highly anticipating the flywheel getting going for GameStop's long-term value creation. In a way that's expedited, right? That happens faster than just the cost cutting and increased profitability that they've been doing for many years now, and gets us to an exciting floor, but it still doesn't get us to an exciting ceiling unless Cohen finally throws some gas on the fire. But he hasn't told us what that is yet. Argenper says it can't be a normal buyout because the acquiring company usually gets blasted. A normal, yeah, so the purchaser, usually the stock, I mean, you're right. Usually the stock of a company that buys another company goes down, and the stock of the other company that's getting bought goes up because, hey, we've just agreed to pay, you know, it's a $55 billion market cap. We've just agreed to pay $65 billion. And targets, boom, they jump up 12% or whatever. And on GameStop side, like the purchasing company, usually the investor sentiment is, man, you way overpaid. You paid way too much for that. So now you're like, you're holding the bags from day one. So they punish you for it on your stock. And they say, we'll see if you make this worth it in the long run. But right now, you just overpaid. The thing is, though, in this case, GameStop would be immediately included in the S&P 500. Immediately, the convertibles, 4.2 billion worth, would become dilutive rather than netted out as debt. Currently, they're viewed as debt, and net cash is viewed as 5 billion. But if overnight GameStop's way over the $29 threshold per share, because the combined entity, even with taking a shaving on how Target's going to be valued relative to GameStop's purchase of it, like, what am I trying to say? If GameStop buys Target for 65 billion, the combined company hypothetically should be worth 75 billion when you add in GameStop's 10. But let's say investors are super upset. They think GameStop way overpaid. So now the combined company, instead of being worth 65 plus 10, they're only worth 50 billion total, right? So a 30% drop on the valuation of the company, right? A 30% drop still makes it a $50 billion enterprise that's still in the S&P, that's still over the convertibles, that the warrants still convert on. And now they can issue new convertibles at even better terms, etc. Like it still sets in motion the flywheel and potentially forces shorts to close, right? And potentially rallies some meme hype, retail hype back into the stock, momentum back into the stock that usually doesn't happen with an acquisition. Usually it's like, okay, boom, this company bought that company. Here's how we value it. Down a little here, up a little there. It's hardly even news, you know? But in this case, it would be news. It would be big news. Not if it's Funko. It wouldn't be big news if it's Funko. but if it's Target, even if you guys are right and it's eBay, like that would be big news. I don't know why people think it's eBay, but it could be. it's not like grossly overvalued. I listened to their earnings call as well. And it's a highly complex business that does way less in revenue, way less in profit, doesn't need the cash. It's not super undervalued. I'm like, look, just because they also partner with PSA doesn't mean we need to buy them, you know? But if GameStop buys eBay, that'd be cool. Like, I'm bullish on eBay. Most of my clients have a chunk of eBay as a part of their portfolio holdings. So I'm not like anti. I just don't think it fits what Cohen wants to do. But I'd be down. Is it really? Hazel said someone on another stream said the vote is on 420. That would be so funny. That would be very like Cohen to do that. I wish that meant something more than that, you know, like, oh, it's a sign, you know, but it's really not that important. So anyways, main point of this stream is, despite all the hype, despite all the big flowery words, we're talking about someone that's just the stand-in. We're talking about a company that's going to keep doing exactly what it's been doing, which, by the way, has continued to still be down year over year on top and bottom line. And the big new focus is joy, delight, which aligns very well with Cohen's priorities as a retailer. So I still think it's possible. If our like these weights, you know, like this is, oh, I put 1% down Best Buy. To me, like emotionally, I'm just kind of like a little bit over it. Like, I just want to know what the right answer is. I want to know really what's GameStop going to buy. And like, you could say that all of these are a 0.1% chance, you know, like what if it's none of these names? And what if it's none of the names we've talked about on any of the streams? I'm like, I don't even really care at this point. Like, I just want to know. So then we can start analyzing the company that gets purchased and figuring out the long-term value for the holding company and the trajectory for how long it's going to take for that value to be realized. Eric said, do you think there's a reason why there hasn't been a merger yet? Is Ryan Cohen's post on the Hollow Man like a frustration that something fell through? I don't think so personally. Like, I don't think we would have seen a merger announced yet. I think it's still most likely that he's going to wait till after the vote to announce a merger. I think the anticipation of he's doing something without the judgment of, oh, I don't actually like what he's doing, is the best situation for him to go ahead and get his vote voted on. But I hope I'm wrong, and I've said that several times. Like, I hope we get something sooner. I'm feeling like I really want to know, you know. I'm feeling a little antsy, feeling a little bored, just focusing on this tiny retailer that is doing awesome stuff. Okay, let's not get it twisted. There's exciting stuff happening in this world of this retailer here, but man, I want to know if we're going to buy something that does 100 billion in revenue rather than, you know, maybe 3.5 billion in revenue. You know what I mean? Like, oh, and then Cohen going doing his little thing on it, you know, working up his little gumbo, putting his master class on it. Like, geez, I can't wait. I think the reason why he would wait though, Eric, is because if he announces it and it's awesome, the stock immediately is going to go up. And if the stock is above his first tranche before the vote even comes, I think that is a bad look. Like his compensation, I think the first tranche is a $20 billion market cap. Is it 20 or is it 30? I think it's 20. Yeah. So double where we are today. If we announce Target is the acquisition and then GameStop squeezes to $50 a share, I'm not saying that would happen, but if it did, then all of a sudden we're already above a $20 billion, market cap for GameStop specifically. And then why are we voting on Cohen to get paid $3.5 billion, right? The 10%, the first tranche for something that's literally already happened. Aren't we supposed to be voting on something that he's going to accomplish in the future? Or are we back paying him for what he's already been paid? So I think they're kind of just stuck where they have to get this vote done first before they announce what they're going to do. But I agree, it's kind of frustrating. Like I just feel like I just want it to happen. I just want it to happen already. Project Burpee says we should buy the Seahawks. Hey, it's a pretty well-run NFL franchise over there. I mean, that would be pretty fun. I don't know if that's even legal. Like the NFL is a fraternity. Like you have to be approved as an owner. And I doubt they would approve a publicly traded company being the owner of a team. But it's possible. Argent has owned at least 100 shares since 2018. Congrats to you. Cheers to you. I'm about to wrap this up, but I wanted to say hey and what's up to all you guys and just kind of share the general, like, I don't know, is anyone else getting kind of bored with the stock and just feeling like, man, how do we really have to wait till May or June? Can we get a little bit of spice? I do want to talk earnings soon, like pre-earnings talk, get a little guesstimate on what we might see on their earnings report. I do also want to dive into the practicals of these kind of investment scenarios for GameStop according to if they achieve what they want to achieve or if they don't, if the market's bullish or if it's bearish, right? Although most people don't like when I talk about this stuff because some of y'all are touchy. And you interpret it as me saying to sell your shares or something like that, or price anchoring, or I don't know, all types of crazy stuff. So I might not even do that because some of y'all get just kind of weird about it. But the only reason I'm talking about that is just to help anyone, because obviously you guys here are not my clients. I'm not working for you. So I want to help you guys make the best decisions for yourself. But sometimes that could be viewed as like, I don't know, sus or something like that. So I'm fine with not helping you, just so you know. If y'all just want commentary and you don't want any help, that's fine with me. Fine with me. British says, thanks, Jeremy. Not bored with the stock and never will be. But Hazel says, yes, we need something. Yeah, it would be nice to see a dividend later on. And Jay Card says, if your theory is on target, what's delaying announcing the shareholder vote on his comp package? Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. It's kind of like the other side of the coin of what if they do want to announce something before we vote? I think the answer that is still on the delayed side of the coin is they're waiting for earnings. Like they want to go ahead and show you what we did in Q4. Maybe Q4 is actually pretty strong. Maybe costs are down a little further than what people thought. Revenue is actually doing a little better than what people thought. Maybe they give us a sneak peek on Power Packs numbers. Like, hey, let me give you a little something, something, and then we can schedule the vote post, this earnings call. Like if at the end of the earnings, the next day, they file a news filing that says, hey, the vote for Cohen's compensation will be on whatever day, April 20th. Would love to see you there. Okay, thanks. Like I think, and it's a 10K. So we learn some stuff in a 10K that we don't in a 10Q. So they might just be waiting for that before they really go further from there. And yeah, Bitcoin will be a loss, but it will not affect operating income. It's non-operating, so it doesn't really matter. All it really changes is this number right here, right? The value of their liquid assets, that's all that matters. And right now there's 450 million shares in the float. So if your Bitcoin is down 10 million, well, that's 25 cents a share. And that's already going to be priced in. Like that happens real time, where it's like, oh, the actual cash in the actual bank is lower. So we probably shouldn't value it since it doesn't exist anymore. You know what I mean? But 25 cents a share is like, it's peanuts. It's not that big a deal. And it's not like they necessarily sold their Bitcoin. So they could just as easily make 100 million the next quarter, So far, Q1 is not on to a great start. But we're only 1 month in. February, March, April is GameStop's Q1. So we'll see where Bitcoin ends up after April. But anyways, very exciting times. Appreciate all you guys. And I'm glad, British, that you're not bored with the stock. I wish that I wasn't bored. I feel a little bored, but the truth is I feel very excited. I'm not bored. I'm just like trying to pull the future forward. I'm just like, could earnings just be tomorrow? Like I just want to, let's just see the numbers, and so because I'm so highly anticipating some things that are coming this year, because I'm highly anticipating what GameStop's accomplishing this year, it's making me feel impatient. But I'm not like bored. Like there's a lot to look forward to, a lot to be excited about. So I'm thankful for that because the past several years there hasn't been fundamentally that much to be looking forward to. So anyways, we'll do earnings projections soon. That'll be a fun one to think through with you guys together. But this is all I got for you today. I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.